What we're seeing in America among young people is this shift where they're looking at communism favorably, they're looking at socialism favorably, and they're kind of turning their back on America, saying that, this country isn't all that great.
To all those people, all I want to tell them, fly to Cuba, stay there. If you want to feel what communism, socialism, what is it? Because it's too easy to say it here. You think it's easy, you think everything's free, you think it's good, but it's really not. I'm from Cuba. I came when I was 12, and I know the difference between Cuba and United States. I love it here.
What's your...
Selling somebody the idea of utopia, of nirvana, is very, very easy. And when people try to sell communism and Marxism to the masses, it is because people are unaware of what actually happens in these places. I personally have been to Cuba. I lived in Eastern Europe for some time and have traveled to many of these places, and you can still see the hangover of communism in the fact that people are less friendly. And why are people less friendly? Because they've been taught at an early age by their parents not to smile at a stranger, not to invite a conversation with somebody unwanted, not because they're necessarily bad people, but because of the necessary precautions that a communist government must take in terms of the totalitarian edicts that they issue, where they will arrest you if you say something negative against the state. Because that's how you keep power, when power is kept by force. And because of this, you don't invite conversation with somebody that you don't really, really, really know, because you're going to get hauled away to the gulag. So loving parents are going to teach their kids not to say anything. What I have here is a reminder of people who have actually experienced communism that I hope that you can share with other people who are on the fence and being sold by the radical left this poisonous notion of communism, like Black Lives Matter is trying to do. Some of these Cubans were originally supporters of Black Lives Matter until they found out what they stood for when they tweeted out in support of the Cuban government and rest in power, Fidel, because that's what it's about, power. And they're trying to sell you with this utopian notion in order to gain it. And then they dispatch you. So without further ado, here are some of the thoughts of Cuban dissidents here in the United States to counter these notions, which, once again, I hope you share. Peace out.
Risk their lives to protest on the island. They're protesting and they're screaming, libertad. They are asking for freedom. The concern of the people isn't the embargo. It's the authoritarian dictatorship they are living under. People are not going hungry because there's an embargo. There is fish and lobster in hotels for tourists, but no food for the people. There's no food for the people, but there's food in supermarkets that you can only purchase from if you have US dollars. And the people do not earn in US dollars. There are fruits and vegetables that go bad in the countryside because the government doesn't collect it in time. But if a Cuban were to collect it to give it to their family, they would be imprisoned. The healthcare system in the middle of a pandemic is a disaster, but there's money to build hotels. And when foreign countries try to offer aid, the Cuban government rejects it, with people dying in the hallways of hospitals. In the statement, the organization says that Cuba time and time again has supported Black and brown people. Black and brown people are disproportionately affected by the regime. If you look at the Cuban dissidents and the activists that have been imprisoned for trying to speak out against the government this year, a lot of them are Black and brown. The most important dissident in Cuba right now is Black because they are disproportionately affected. Black Lives Matter, you are the face of protests all over the world. Yet you have nothing to say about a government that does not grant its people freedom of assembly, nor does it grant its people freedom of speech. A government that right now has cops brutalizing its people. A government whose leader encourages people to go out and fight the people of the town. A government that is ripping teenage boys from their homes to be put in a draft to fight their own people. And you have no comment on that? If you have no comment on that, then it becomes crystal clear to me that before Black lives and before ending police brutality comes your political ideology. That is what's on top for you. that's your priority.
I'm going to speak in English about what's going on in Cuba because I don't hear a lot of English speakers talking about this and my generation talking about this. Cuba has been under a dictatorship for 62 years. So people, for the last 62 years, since 1960s and 1958, around there, people started making homemade boats that we call lanchas and have bringing them to the coast of Florida seeking shelter. Let me explain to you why, because you might be saying, well, they're just immigrants invading because they want to leave their home country. No, it's because us Cubans, we don't complain about anything. It takes a lot for us to complain. And this, I'm sick and tired of it. So let me tell you what's going on. There's no coffins for dead bodies. If you have a dead family member, they get pronounced dead. They get wrapped in a bed sheet. You get delivered the dead body, and you have to take it home with you. What you do with the body, they don't care. You have to figure it out. If you don't have a car, they don't provide transportation, and you have to take the dead body home walking. There's no drinking water. Food costs $200. A pound of rice costs $200. You don't want to know how much a 10-pound one costs. My favorite part. Canadian dollars is the currency of Cuba right now. If you don't have family here in the United States to give you money, you have to figure it out. You have to figure it out. Because the only way you can get money in Cuba is if you get it sent to you by here. Oh, and here, it takes months to get to Cuba. They shut off their light and water at 7. As soon as the sun goes down, your electricity gets shut. Internet is shut right now worldwide in Cuba. That's why we're not getting any new news. But we have family there. Everybody's out on the streets right now, just the same way they were yesterday. They're out on the streets right now. There's no medication, there's no Advil, there's no antibiotics, there's no butterfly needles, there's no IVs, there's nothing. And now is when people are hearing the screams out of Cuba. I'm sick and tired of this dictatorship. And my whole life, when we visited Cuba, you could not say a word against the government. But now I can go to my country and say, Dia Canel Singao. Fuck human.
What's your message to these college students?
Listen to us, guys. Communism sounds beautiful in theory, but it can never be taken to practice. Understand that. Communism kills. They take everything. They tell you what to think, what to feel. They even control what music you listen to. Right now in Cuba, after 62 years of communism, kids are getting shot in the streets just for chanting freedom. The problem is not the lack of food or the lack of medicine, it's the lack of freedom. If we have freedom, we will have food and medicine. You can bet on that.
Since the 60s, the people in the colleges, students and definitely the professors, they have this neo-Marxist type of indoctrination going on. I went through the college system here in the United States, and it's just obvious that that's what's happening.
The American school system and the American democracy allows every student to learn of every system. But in Cuba, you can only learn of one system. It's only one type of knowledge, and that is communism. That is wrong. They have to learn about capitalism. They have to learn about democracy. The idea of capitalism is greater than communism, and I say it to all of the students.